Would you risk everything, your finances, your future, for a stadium? That's the billion-dollar gamble clubs around the world are making. Some call it genius, others call it madness. But one thing's clear, it's changing the game forever. Welcome to Big Builds. And stick around because what's happening behind the scenes is crazier than anything on the pitch. The dream, why clubs go all in. Let's start with the dream. For most clubs, the idea of a new stadium isn't just about upgrading a few seats or adding more toilets. It's about building a global brand. A billion-dollar stadium becomes the face of the club, the showpiece for fans, players, sponsors, and media. Think about Tottenham Hotspur's stadium. It cost over $1.3 billion and is now considered one of the best sports venues in the world. It's a football stadium, sure, but it also hosts concerts, NFL games, boxing matches, and can pour 10,000 pints a minute. It's not just a ground, it's an experience. That's what clubs are chasing. A flashy new stadium promises bigger ticket sales, better VIP experiences, more naming rights money, and endless events throughout the year. The math, at least on paper, seems to work. Build big, and the revenue will be even bigger. The reality, it's a financial minefield. But here's the catch. These things don't come cheap. We're talking about billion-dollar builds, and most clubs don't have that kind of cash lying around. That means loans, debt, risk, a lot of it. Barcelona's S by Barça project is a perfect example. The club, already deep in financial trouble, decided to launch a $1.6 billion renovation of the iconic Camp Nou. They had to borrow heavily, secure funding through Goldman Sachs, and pause the project midway just to reassess costs, all while trying to remain competitive on the pitch. One bad season, one dip in form, and suddenly the financial walls start to crack. You're no longer just managing a football team. You're managing a mega corporation under construction. Stadiums are no longer just about fans. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Modern stadiums aren't really about the everyday fan anymore. Sure, the seats are nicer, the food's better, and there's better lighting for selfies. But the core focus? It's corporate. Luxury boxes, executive suites, sponsor lounges, high-end restaurants. Clubs aren't just selling tickets, they're selling access to business leaders, celebrities, global investors. A regular fan might pay $50 for a seat, but a company could drop $500,000 for a corporate box and never even care about the final score. That's why clubs are making these stadiums ultra-modern, with Wi-Fi, glass walls, retractable pitches, anything that will make sponsors drool. And if that means pricing out some fans or selling pieces of the club's soul, well, that's just part of the gamble. The Arsenal problem, when revenue doesn't equal trophies. Even if the stadium works financially, it doesn't always translate to success on the pitch. Just ask Arsenal fans. When the club moved from their beloved Highbury to the state-of-the-art Emirates Stadium in 2006, the plan was clear. Step into the modern era, boost revenue, and compete with Europe's elite. And sure enough, the numbers looked great. Matchday income soared, sponsorships rolled in. The club finally had the infrastructure of a footballing powerhouse. But here's the twist. On the field, things didn't go as planned. Instead of becoming a dominant force, Arsenal entered a long period of struggle. Their spending in the transfer market was cautious, even frugal. That wasn't because they lacked ambition, it was because they were handcuffed by the debt from the stadium construction. Years passed with tight budgets, fan frustrations, and a growing sense that they traded soul for concrete. For over a decade, Arsenal were more known for balancing their books than lifting trophies. It wasn't until much later, once the financial burden started easing, that they began to look like real title contenders again. The takeaway? A shiny new stadium might promise progress, but in reality, it can delay success before it ever delivers it. Naming rights, the lifeline or the sellout. One major source of stadium income that clubs are banking on is naming rights. It's simple. A company pays millions, sometimes hundreds of millions, for the right to slap their name on a stadium for 10, 20, even 30 years. And it sounds like a win-win. The club gets a big financial boost, the company gets constant global exposure, and fans, Well, that's where things get tricky. Take Tottenham, for example. Their stunning new stadium has been open since 2019, but they still haven't finalized a naming rights deal. Why? Because they're holding out for the perfect offer, one that could bring in a jaw-dropping $20 to $30 million every single year. That's a huge revenue stream just waiting to be tapped. It could fund transfers, improve facilities, or pay off stadium debt faster. But there's a trade-off. For many fans, the stadium's name is sacred. Replacing something like White Hart Lane with a corporate mouthful like Crypto World Arena or Burger King Dome can feel like selling the soul of the club. History and tradition are hard to price. Still, for most clubs, sentiment comes second. If naming rights help keep the club afloat or push it to the next level, then it's a deal most owners are more than willing to make. Hidden costs and construction nightmares. What fans don't always see are the hidden costs buried beneath those shiny new seats. Stadium projects are rarely smooth rides. Delays, lawsuits, cost overruns, missed deadlines. It's all part of the gamble. And these problems don't just eat into budgets, they ripple across every part of the club. Take SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. When it was first announced, the projected cost was around $2.5 billion. Not cheap, but manageable for a massive NFL venue. But by the time it was completed, the final bill had ballooned to over $5 billion. Why? Flooding during construction, legal disputes, weather delays, you name it. Every setback added millions. These complications aren't just a headache for construction crews, they hurt the club's ability to function. Recruitment budgets shrink, player salaries take a hit, ticket prices go up. In some cases, clubs have even been forced to sell key players just to stay afloat financially. So while fans dream of a glittering new home, the reality behind the scenes can be far more brutal. What was supposed to be a bright new era starts to look like a financial storm cloud, one that can linger for years. When it works, it really works. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. Some clubs have nailed it. Take the Dallas Cowboys, for example. Their $1.2 billion AT&T Stadium has turned into a full-blown business empire. It hosts major concerts, boxing, college football, even WrestleMania. It pulls in over $600 million a year. That's not just stadium success, that's brand domination. Bayern Munich's Allianz Arena is another case study. Smart design, strategic partnerships, and solid performance on the pitch made it a massive win for the club. They even bought out their partner early to own the whole thing outright. That's how you do it. When the balance between ambition and execution is right, a stadium becomes a money-printing machine. The fans, always paying the price. But here's the uncomfortable truth. No matter how good or bad the stadium gamble plays out, it's usually the fans who carry the burden. Ticket prices rise. Food gets more expensive. Legacy seats get pushed further away from the action. Some long-time season ticket holders can't even afford to go anymore. And if the team doesn't win, that shiny new stadium becomes a weekly reminder of what the club could have been if they hadn't mortgaged their future on concrete and LED lights. That emotional toll is something money can't measure. The future, super stadiums or super regret. As we look ahead, more clubs are preparing to take the leap. AC Milan and Inter are planning a new stadium to replace the iconic San Siro. Manchester United is exploring a complete rebuild of Old Trafford. Even smaller clubs like Everton are investing heavily into modern venues. But as more stadiums rise, so do the risks. Global interest rates are high, construction costs keep climbing, and fan loyalty is being tested like never before. The next 10 years will reveal whether these billion-dollar bets pay off or become some of the costliest mistakes in sports history. Final whistle. Worth the gamble. So, is it worth it? That's the billion-dollar question. Literally. On one side, you've got clubs turning themselves into futuristic powerhouses, with more money and more opportunities than ever before. On the other, you've got teams drowning in debt, struggling to keep up, and drifting further away from their fan base. A new stadium can launch you into the stratosphere, or it can drag you into the abyss. Either way, the gamble is real, and for better or worse, the game has changed forever. So the next time you walk into a sparkling new stadium, just remember, Behind every touchscreen beer tap and luxury box is a club that rolled the dice and is still waiting to see where it lands. Would you bet your club's entire future for a stadium? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. The stakes in sports have never been higher, and we've got more wild stories coming your way. Stick around. You won't want to miss what's next. You've been watching Big Builds.